Good day. Today's lecture is devoted to distance learning as one of the significant forms of organizing education in contemporary higher school. This topic is especially relevant because modern education must respond to changing social, professional, and technological conditions. Consequently, the traditional model based solely on physical presence in the classroom can no longer satisfy all educational needs. Distance learning, therefore, should be considered not merely as a technical alternative, but as a serious pedagogical form with its own logic, resources, and requirements. At the outset, the lecture formulates its aim in practical terms to ensure control over students' knowledge, skills, and abilities while making learning possible outside the university classroom. In other words, the student may master educational material at home, at the workplace, or in a specially equipped computer class. The lecture plan reflects this orientation. It includes three central questions: distance learning as a form of education, the role of computer systems, and modern informational and educational technologies. Thus, the discussion moves from the pedagogical form itself to the technical and methodological means through which it becomes possible. Distance learning is defined here as a form of education that provides educational services without requiring the student's physical attendance at the university. It relies on modern informational technologies and telecommunication systems, including email, broadcasting, and internet-based platforms. This definition is important because it shows that distance learning is not simply self-study. Rather, it is an organized educational process mediated through technology. Its flexibility is especially significant, since it allows access to education regardless of geographical location. Therefore, distance learning expands educational opportunity while preserving the core aims of higher education. The slide identifies several groups for whom distance learning is especially valuable. First, it supports working professionals who wish to continue education without interrupting employment. Second, it opens access for students with disabilities, including those with visual, auditory, or mobility-related difficulties. Third, it serves remote learners who live far from major educational centers. Accordingly, distance learning has a strong social function. It widens access to higher education and reduces the dependence of educational opportunity on geography, health conditions, or work schedule. In this regard, it contributes directly to educational inclusion. This slide emphasizes that any educational activity must include three essential components: the educational task, transformation methods, and self-control. The educational task requires the student to understand learning objectives clearly. Transformation methods concern the active means by which material is mastered. Self-control, finally, develops the ability to monitor and evaluate one's own progress. This triad is particularly important in distance learning. Since the student works with greater independence, the ability to organize activity consciously becomes central. Therefore, distance learning is effective only when these three components are balanced and fully developed. The lecture next turns to computer systems as the technological foundation of distance learning. The slide identifies four especially important capabilities: automated examination, personalized recommendations, practical training through simulations, and rapid access to electronic libraries and databases. Taken together, these functions show that computer systems do far more than deliver information. They support assessment, adaptation, practice, and access. Consequently, the computer becomes not merely a device, but an active educational medium through which the distance learning process is organized and sustained. This slide broadens the discussion by presenting several modern technologies used in distance learning: hypertext, multimedia, GIS technologies, virtual reality, cloud computing, and mobile applications. Each of these contributes to educational richness in a different way. Hypertext and multimedia strengthen interactivity, GIS tools support spatial analysis, virtual reality introduces immersion, cloud computing ensures flexible access, and mobile applications extend learning beyond fixed locations. Therefore, contemporary distance learning should be understood as a technologically led environment. Its effectiveness depends on how these tools are pedagogically combined rather than on their mere presence. The slide then addresses one of the major strengths of distance learning: flexibility in both materials and location. Students may use electronic materials such as downloadable textbooks, videos, and interactive resources. However, printed resources also remain available for those who prefer more traditional forms of study. Equally important is the possibility of learning in different places, at home, at work, or in dedicated computer classes. This flexibility allows instruction to take account of individual needs, pace, temperament, and employment circumstances. Thus, the pedagogical value of distance learning lies in its adaptability to real student conditions. Distance learning requires not only materials, but also forms of pedagogical contact. The slide identifies two such forms: lectures and consultations. Lectures may be pre-recorded and delivered through digital media or streaming platforms. Their multimedia character often improves visibility and expressiveness, and students can access them repeatedly at convenient times. Consultations, however, remain equally important. Through telephone, email, video conferencing, and personalized feedback, the teacher continues to guide independent study. Accordingly, distance education combines student autonomy with maintained pedagogical support. Assessment in distance learning must verify not only the assimilation of theoretical material, but also the application of knowledge in practical work. The slide refers to online examinations, practical assignments, project submissions, and progress tracking as major forms of control. Moreover, teachers evaluate not only knowledge itself, but also intellectual qualities such as attention, memory, imagination, and critical thinking. Therefore, control in distance learning remains comprehensive. It should not be reduced to simple testing alone, but must preserve a broader educational perspective. This slide presents a balanced view by identifying both advantages and important considerations. Among the advantages are accessibility, geographical independence, flexible scheduling, lower costs, personalized pace, and integration of modern technologies. At the same time, several limitations must also be acknowledged: reduced face-to-face interaction, dependence on self-discipline, reliance on technology and stable internet, and a weaker sense of campus experience. This balance is methodologically important. Distance learning should neither be idealized nor dismissed. Rather, it must be assessed realistically, with due regard to both its opportunities and its demands. Thank you for your attention. I hope this lecture has clarified the pedagogical nature of distance learning, its technological foundations, and its significance for accessibility, flexibility, and modern educational development.